Welcome to the Growth Snack.
Hey, everyone.
Today we're doing a deep dive into a book that really caught on because its message is so simple, but honestly pretty powerful. It's Admiral William H. McRaven's Make Your Bed. Little things that can change your life and maybe the world.
Right, and the book basically springs from that commencement speech he gave, the one at the University of Texas. It boils down 10 lessons he took away from, well, the incredibly intense Navy SEAL training.
Exactly. And our mission today is to unpack those key lessons from the book. We want to see how these things that sound small, these little actions and ways of thinking, can actually make a big difference in your life.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
Let's jump right into lesson 1, the very first thing he talks about.
Okay, so the first one is surprisingly straightforward. Start your day with a task completed.
Which means?
Make your bed. Simple as that.
Make your bed. I mean, it sounds almost trivial, doesn't it?
It does, but in the SEAL training barracks,
Yeah.
this was serious business. It was the first thing you had to do every single day.
And the book describes this inspection process, right? It wasn't just a quick glance.
Oh, no. They checked everything. Uniform perfectly starched, brass shining, boots polished, and the bed. It had to be perfect. Hospital corners, the blanket folded just right, pillow dead center.
And they even had that quarter test, didn't they?
Yeah. An instructor would literally bounce a quarter off the bed. If it didn't bounce high enough, it wasn't tight enough. You failed.
Wow. And it wasn't about getting praised for it either?
Not at all. It was just expected. It was about instilling discipline, attention to detail, right from minute one of the day.
And he makes this point that even if the rest of the day was just awful, totally fell apart, seeing that perfectly made bed when you came back was like, okay, I did something right today, something I could be proud of, even if it was small.
It's like a little anger, a small win to start and a small accomplishment to end on.
Yeah.
He even mentions doing it everywhere, like on a submarine or on a cot after 9/11 when he was injured.
That's commitment. He even contrasts it with Saddam Hussein in captivity.
Yeah, he noted Saddam didn't make his cot. The book kind of implies it said something about, well, a lack of discipline or maybe structure. A small thing, but telling.
So for you listening, it's not really about having the neatest room. It's more about creating that structure, finding a bit of pride, setting a tone for the day.
Absolutely. And that need for structure and personal accountability kind of leads into the second lesson.
Which is?
You can't go it alone. Or, as the book puts it, find someone to help you paddle.
Ah, the raft. That 10-foot rubber raft they had to lug everywhere in training?
Exactly. Heavy, awkward, impossible for one person to handle. It was a very physical, very immediate lesson.
Yeah.
You need a team. You have to rely on others.
Because if someone got sick or injured or just couldn't keep up.
Everyone else had to compensate.
Yeah.
Paddle harder, carry more of the load, sometimes even share their own food rations.
Yeah, it builds bonds for sure.
Incredible bonds. You helped them, knowing they'd help you when you needed it. It created this deep sense of interdependence. And the book stresses this isn't just SEAL training stuff. This is life. You need people.
He shares a really personal story about this too, doesn't he? About his parachute accident?
Oh, yeah. Really serious accident. Later in his career. Shattered his pelvis. He was laid up, in pain. And he admits, feeling sorry for himself started to creep in.
And his wife, Georgian.
She was key. The book credits her with providing not just care, but that essential tough love, reminding him he doesn't quit. Friends helped. His boss, Admiral Olson, stepped up. Olson might have even saved his career, helping him navigate the medical boards.
He's really upfront in the book, saying basically anything he achieved, especially after the accident, was because others helped him.
Yeah. So the takeaway is pretty clear. Life's like that raft. You need a crew. Build those friendships, share your life, and don't forget that your success relies on others helping you paddle.
Okay, so moving on. Lesson 3 is about looking beyond the surface.
Right. Only the size of your heart matters. Measure people by their grit, their determination, not just, how big or talented they look.
And SEAL training was apparently the perfect place to learn that. Seems counterintuitive for such a physical challenge.
You'd think. But the book tells this great story about a really small recruit, like 5'4".
Facing this huge instructor in the surf.
Yeah. And the instructor's just laying into him, challenging him because of his size, trying to break his spirit.
But the recruit wouldn't give in.
Nope. Shouting back, "Yes, instructor, I do, and I won't quit." Apparently, the instructor finally whispered, "Prove me wrong."
And did he?
He did. Finished the swim right near the front of the pack. Proved determination was more important than height.
And McRaven had his own moment realizing this, right? When he was younger?
Yeah, as a midshipman visiting the training center, he saw all these massive, intimidating instructors, and then this seemingly frail civilian guy walking around in sandals.
And he admits he judged him purely on looks.
Totally. But then comes the reveal. The civilian was Lieutenant Tom Norris, Medal of Honor recipient from Vietnam. Yeah, guy did incredible things. Rescued downed pilots behind enemy lines, got shot, came back from serious injury. And the kicker, Norris himself was initially told he was too small for SEAL training.
Goes to show, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The book's point is crystal clear. Don't judge by appearances. Look for the heart, the courage, the grit. That's what really counts.
Okay, lesson 4. This one involves cookies.
Huh?
Yeah, the sugar cookie. The lesson is life's not fair drive on. Basically, get over being a sugar cookie and keep moving forward.
So what was being a sugar cookie? Sounds unpleasant.
Oh, it was. The book paints a picture. You jump into the freezing cold ocean, fully clothed, then immediately roll around the beach until you're completely covered in sand.
Ugh, wet, cold, sand everywhere.
Exactly. Utterly miserable. And the real kicker, the book points out, is that it often happened randomly.
Randomly. Not for messing up.
Sometimes, sure, but often just because an instructor felt like it. Didn't matter how well you'd perform moments before. You could ace an event and still end up a sugar cookie 5 minutes later. That must have been infuriating, especially for the high achievers.
Totally. You expect reward for effort, right? Not arbitrary punishment. McRaven actually asked one instructor, Mookie Martin, why they did it.
And the answer?
Simple. Powerful. Because life isn't fair. And the sooner you learn that, the better off you will be.
Wow. And then the book tells Mookie Martin's own story.
Yeah, which makes that statement even more poignant.
Yeah.
Martin later had a terrible bicycle accident, left him paralyzed from the waist down. Talk about unfair.
But he didn't complain.
According to the book, McRaven knew him for 35 years after the accident and never once heard him complain, ask why me, or show any self-pity. He adapted, became a painter, raised a family, organized a triathlon, just drove on.
That's incredible resilience.
It really is. So the insight for us is, look, life will throw unfair stuff at you. It's easy to get bitter, blame others, feel like a victim. But the book argues how you respond to that unfairness is what defines you. Don't complain, stand tall, look ahead, drive on.
Powerful lesson, which ties into the next one, number 5.
Yep. Failure can make you stronger. Or, as the book puts it, don't be afraid of the circus.
The circus. Sounds almost fun, but I'm guessing it wasn't.
Not even close. The circus was basically punishment duty. If you failed any event during the day, a run, a swim, an obstacle course, you got tagged for an extra 2 hours of brutal calisthenics and harassment that evening.
And that was bad because...
Because it exhausted you.
Yeah.
You're so drained from the circus, you were more likely to fail an event the next day, which meant more circus. It was a downward spiral that made a lot of guys quit.
A cycle of failure.
Exactly. McRaven writes that he and his swim buddy were regulars on the circus list early on. Endless flutter kicks, push-ups, you name it. Just soul-crushing.
But something unexpected happened.
Yeah. They hated it, obviously. But as the weeks went by, they realized their swimming was actually getting better.
Yeah.
The extra work, the punishment, was inadvertently making them stronger, building endurance.
So the failure led to improvement.
Right. He tells this story about their final big swim, 5 miles. They dreaded it, but they ended up finishing first. And they realized all that extra pain and suffering paid off.
And he faced a big failure later in his career, too.
He did. He was actually relieved of command, basically fired from a SEAL squadron. He tried to implement changes, ruffled some feathers. It was a huge blow, damaged his reputation.
But he didn't quit the Navy.
No.
Yeah.
He chose to stick it out, use it as fuel. The book says he worked harder, performed better on subsequent assignments, determined to prove himself. Eventually, he regained respect and went on to command his own SEAL team later.
So the lesson is failure isn't the end.
Far from it. The book argues you will face circuses in life, moments where you fall short. Don't fear them. Learn from them. Let them make you tougher, more prepared for the really hard stuff down the road.
Okay, lesson 6 builds on that resilience. It's about pushing boundaries.
Exactly. You must dare greatly. The image the book uses is slide down the obstacle head first.
This refers to a specific obstacle, right? The slide for life.
Yep. Sliding down a long rope from a high tower. There was a slower, safer way to do it, hanging underneath, possum style.
But that wasn't the fastest way.
No, the commando-style sliding head first on top of the rope was much faster, but way riskier. You could get rope burns, fall, get seriously injured, wash out of training.
And McRaven was playing it safe?
Initially, yeah. He was slow. An old, experienced instructor basically told him, look, if you want to beat this course, you got to take some risks.
So he tried the headfirst slide.
He did. Pushed past the fear, trusted himself, and boom, set a personal best time. It was a small thing, but a big lesson in overcoming fear and taking calculated risks.
And he connects this to a much bigger risk later on.
Absolutely. A really high-stakes hostage rescue mission in Iraq, 2004. Daylight raid. They had to land 3 big Black Hawk helicopters inside a tiny walled compound.
How tiny?
Inches to spare between the rotor blades and the walls, apparently.
Yeah.
Huge risk of collision. But intelligence said the hostages were about to be executed, so they had to act fast.
They took the gamble.
They did. Believed in their skills, their planning, their team, and it worked. They rescued the hostages. It was a perfect example of needing to dare greatly when the stakes are high.
The book mentions the SIS motto, too, right?
Who dares wins.
Yeah.
It resonates.
Yeah.
The core idea is life involves risk. If you live in constant fear of failure or hardship, you'll never achieve your potential. You have to push your limits, dare greatly to see what's truly possible.
That leads naturally into confronting fear, which is lesson 7.
Right. Stand up to the bullies. The image here is pretty intense. Don't back down from the sharks.
Sharks, like literal sharks.
Well, the story comes from a 4-mile night swim off San Clemente Island, which is known for great white sharks. So yeah, the fear was real.
Being alone in the dark ocean, knowing they're down there, terrifying.
Absolutely. But the book frames it metaphorically, too. Despite that primal fear, their determination to become SEALs gave them the courage to push through it. Courage, the book argues, is what lets you overcome obstacles and, importantly, stand up to evil. Without it, bullies win.
And he has a very stark example of standing up to a bully.
A world-class one. Saddam Hussein. McRaven describes meeting him after his capture. Even as a prisoner, Saddam apparently still had this intimidating aura that unnerved some of the new Iraqi leaders.
So what did McRaven do?
He made a conscious effort to diminish that power. Isolated Saddam, removed any symbols of his former status, made it clear every day that he was no longer in charge, no longer someone to be feared.
Taking away the bully's power source.
Exactly. The book's point is that Saddam's tyranny ended because courageous soldiers stood up to him. The takeaway is broader, though. Bullies rely on fear, whether it's on a playground or on the world stage. They test you, looking for weakness. You have to find that inner courage to stand firm.
Okay, lesson 8 takes us into really dark territory.
It does. The lesson is, rise to the occasion. Or, put another way, be your very best in the darkest moments.
This comes from the night dive training.
Yeah, in San Diego Bay. Imagine diving 2,000 meters underwater in zero visibility, maybe fog rolling in, using this complex breathing gear nicknamed the death rig.
Sounds incredibly dangerous. Getting lost, separated, ending up in a shipping lane.
Huge risks. And the book quotes the chief instructor before a dive, saying something like, tonight we find out who really wants this. You have to rise above your fear, your doubt, your fatigue. No matter how dark it gets, complete the mission.
A direct call to perform under maximum pressure.
Precisely. And the book connects this to, frankly, even darker moments. The REMP ceremonies in Afghanistan.
Honoring the fallen soldiers being sent home.
Yes. McRaven describes these as incredibly solemn, but also deeply inspiring. Seeing everyone, military, civilians, allies, coming together with such dignity and respect for every single fallen service member. He calls it seeing America at its best, even in tragedy.
Seeing people rise to that incredibly difficult occasion.
Exactly. And he shares a specific, very moving story about seeing General John Kelly comforting grieving families at Dover Air Force Base after a helicopter crash killed 38 service members.
And General Kelly had lost his own son in combat.
Right. That shared experience, the book explains, gave his words, his presence, immense weight, his own strength and empathy, while carrying that unimaginable grief gave everyone there, including McRaven, a profound sense of hope. It showed it was possible to endure, to rise above even the deepest pain.
So the insight is, when things are truly terrible,
that's when you have to dig deepest. Find the strength to be your best self. The book argues that this capacity to rise up, fueled by hope, is what truly separates people in times of crisis.
And hope is central to Lesson 9 as well.
It is. Lesson 9. Give people hope. The image is unforgettable. Start singing when you're up to your neck in mud.
The Tijuana mudflats during Hell Week. Sounds legendarily awful.
Chest-deep, freezing cold mud. Constant yelling from instructors, utter exhaustion. Morale completely shattered. It's Wednesday of Hell Week, usually the breaking point for many.
And the instructors offered them a way out.
Yeah, cruel temptation. The book says an instructor yelled out that if 5 guys quit right then, the rest of the class could get out of the mud and warm up by a fire.
Oof. That must have been tempting.
Immense. One guy apparently started to weaken, started moving towards quitting. Then one single voice started singing. Out of the mud. Tired, hoarse, but singing loud enough for others to hear.
And others joined in.
Yeah. More voices joined. The singing got louder, stronger. The whole vibe shifted. The class felt united. Their determination hardened. The guy who was about to quit turned around, went back to the group, started singing too.
Wow. One person changed everything.
Exactly. The instructor just watched and smiled, the book says. He recognized the power of one individual to inspire, to literally give hope when things seemed hopeless.
And McRaven connects this back to General Kelly at Dover, too.
He does. He felt his own words were inadequate for the grieving families. But watching Kelly, who truly understood their pain, offer not just sympathy but strength and empathy born of shared loss, that gave them hope. Hope that they could endure, that life could go on.
So the takeaway is pretty profound.
Yeah. When you find yourself in that metaphorical deep mud, when things are bleakest for you or those around you, that's the moment to step up. Sing loud, smile, lift others, give them hope that tomorrow can be better.
Which brings us to the final lesson, number 10.
The capstone. Never, ever quit. And the symbol for this is simple. Don't ever, ever ring the bell.
The brass bell in the training compound?
Right. Hung where every trainee could see it constantly. On day 1, the instructor explained it. Ring that bell 3 times, and you're out. No more pain, no more cold, no more misery. It's the easy way out.
But there was a warning attached.
A serious one. The instructor warned them. If you quit, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Quitting doesn't make things easier in the long run.
And most people did ring the bell, eventually.
Oh yeah. Only a small percentage made it through. It shows how strong that temptation to quit is when you're pushed past your limits. McRaven is emphatic in the book. Never quitting was the most important lesson he learned.
Because life keeps presenting reasons to quit.
Constantly. Obstacles, setbacks, moments where giving up just seems logical, easier. He says he was always inspired by people who just refused to quit, refused to feel sorry for themselves, no matter how bad things got.
And the book ends with a very powerful final image related to this, doesn't it?
It does. It's incredibly stark. He describes visiting a young Army Ranger in the hospital in Afghanistan.
Severely wounded.
Terribly. Tubes, burns, he'd lost both legs. His life changed forever in an instant. The book just leaves you with that image. It doesn't offer easy answers. It just presents this soldier facing this unimaginable new reality.
It embodies that final lesson in the most extreme way.
Absolutely. How do you possibly not quit after something like that? It's the ultimate test. When everything is stripped away, when the pain is overwhelming, when quitting seems like the only sane response. Find a way. Never, ever quit.
So those are the 10 lessons from Admiral McRaven's Make Your Bed, born from SEAL training, tested in life and combat.
They seem simple on the surface. Make your bed, find a partner, have heart, face unfairness, learn from failure, dare, stand up to bullies, rise up, give hope, don't quit.
But taken together, they form a pretty powerful code for living, really, about discipline, teamwork, courage, resilience, hope. The book makes a compelling case that these little things, practiced consistently, really can change your life and maybe ripple outwards.
So maybe a final thought for you to take away, something rooted right in the book's message. Think about your own life. When you hit that next challenge, whether it's big or small, maybe a moment of doubt or failure, which one of these 10 lessons could you consciously grab onto? Which one could give you the strength to just keep moving forward?
Definitely worth pondering. And the book is absolutely worth checking out. Make Your Bed by Admiral William H. McRaven.
A great read.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive on the Growth Snack.